All right. Good evening, everyone. Happy 2025. We're meeting. We're good. All right. Happy 2025, everyone. We're back. January 2025 for our Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee. And we'll begin with a land acknowledgement. Grimsby is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and Grimsby stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Thank you. Do we have... Oh, we have a recording that hasn't been recorded yet.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Do I need to start anything all over again or no, we're good? All right, we are now recording, so we'll move on with our agenda this evening, which is to ask if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest. It doesn't look like it this evening. Moving on then to the agenda. Any questions or concerns with the agenda? Doesn't look like it. I'll need a mover. Councilor DeFlavio. And I need a seconder. I don't need a seconder.
No, yeah.
I do need a seconder. Okay. And that will be seconded by Amy. And all in favor? That's carried. Perfect. This is good. I have two people to look to for my movers and my seconders today.
We'll rotate.
Yeah, I'll rotate. Yeah. Exactly. I'll be swiveling my head. All right, then moving forward with the minutes, resolution here that the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee minutes of December 10th, 2024 be received. A mover, Amy, and a seconder, DeFlavio. All in favor? Great, carried. Okay, moving on then. We have verbal updates to start with, and Bianca will share Part 4 designations update. So go ahead.
Thank you, through you, the chair. Prior to giving my update, I just wanted to provide a reminder of the townwide heritage review and designations that are currently underway. So the town of Grimsby is currently undergoing a significant heritage resource review with a focus on the designation and recognition of important historic sites. The review was initiated following the significant impacts of the recent passing of Bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster Act. The town has seen significant change over the last decade, and as such, the town is proactively working towards securing the future of our most important sites. Prior to Bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster Act, a building could be listed indefinitely on the municipal register, providing long-term demolition protection in the interim until designation could be pursued. Currently, the new legislation has changed this, and now buildings can only be listed buildings that were listed prior to January 1st, 2023 can only be listed until January 1st, 2027. Once a building has been removed from the list, a municipality cannot relist that building until January 1st, 2032. This will leave over 500 historic buildings in the town without any kind of demolition protection or heritage protection in general. This will also affect over 30,000 properties across the province. These changes will have a significant impact to Grimsby's unique character, historic built character. So that's just a summary, remind everyone why we're doing this townwide review and the designations. I also wanted to acknowledge the property owners of the recent designated properties. I wanted to share that it had been such a positive experience meeting all of you and working with you on the protection of your significant properties. Staff wanted to thank all the property owners for taking the time to meet with us and for being a part of the designation process. Many property owners were directly involved in the development of their individual designation bylaws. We have since met with many of the recently designated property owners to discuss various heritage-related items, such as our new grant program, restoration questions. We've provided support in property owners obtaining insurance, and a few have reached out to us, and we've helped them through the process of selling a heritage site. We look forward to continue to working with all of the property owners and supporting them and as owners of the town's history. Secondly, I wanted to acknowledge Wayne Mullins and his team at the Grimsby Historical Society. Their expertise and efforts have been instrumental to the success of this initiative. We've been meeting with Wayne to talk about some of the properties we're going to be looking at in 2025, and we look forward to working with them again and all the accomplishments we will have together. So since the townwide review commenced in January of 2023, 46 properties have now been formally designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. 44 of those properties were designated without an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. 2 properties did appeal to the Land Tribunal. One was a part of a large planning application, and the Ontario Land Tribunal agreed with council, and the property was, the decision was given that we are to designate the building, and so that building has since been formally designated to the date that council passed the initial bylaw, subject to a few amendments, which we will be working on. And then the other appeal we did receive, the property owners had submitted an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but they have since withdrawn their appeal, and we've been working with them on heritage-related matters, and that site is also designated to the date that council passed the bylaw. So that's 46 in total. I also wanted to share that since January of 2023, the town launched a brand new heritage property grant program to replace the previous program to better suit the needs of the heritage property owners and with the ending of the regional contributions. The new program was developed in consultation with 17 municipalities and over 50 heritage property owners. The town also investigated a heritage tax rebate program, and that will be considered by council during the 2025 budget process. The town also developed tools for heritage property owners, including how to sell a heritage property, how to obtain property insurance, and those have both been put into toolkits that we've been developing for the homeowners. We also created a letter to share with insurance companies prepared by the municipality, and this letter's intent is to support heritage homeowners in obtaining affordable insurance. And we've also updated our heritage trade toolkit, and we've been sharing that with many property owners. And the town has also developed a new process to support heritage property owners with on-site conservation recommendations, and those are completed with the property owners and heritage professionals on staff. So some of the next steps as we come into the new year. The designations on each committee agenda will continue as we work with the heritage property owners to secure the future of the town's most important sites. I wanted to note that a small break was taken midway through 2024 to enable the designation processes for the 46 sites to be completed, to enable us to launch the new grant program and to award all of the grants. It also enabled us to have robust consultation with the heritage property owners within the Heritage Conservation District on Main Street East. And we completed about 40 one-on-one consultations with the property owners, and an update on some of that feedback received will be coming in the coming months. And then it also allowed us to accommodate for the Canada Post-strike. So the notification to the homeowners has now resumed. And then I also wanted to share that we have some themes that we'll be looking at as a part of the designation process for this year and then into 2027. Those themes include the downtown, Main Street, Grimsby Beach, establish historic neighborhoods, properties on Ridge Road and along the escarpment, and important buildings linked to notable families, farming, industrial history, and other important communities. And that's the update. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing, Bianca. It's exciting to see all of the work that was done over the past couple years. 46 designations is so impressive. So amazing work. Definitely a great job to the staff as well. Definitely to the Historical Society for helping as well. And it's so great to see the positive relationship that you've been able to build with the property owners. We've seen a lot of dialogue, a lot of reciprocity, that word. So this is good to see. So thank you so much for that, for the update. I'm looking forward to see what comes this year, especially the updates with the conversations you've been having for the Conservation District. So that's fantastic. Any other comments or questions from the committee?
Through you, Chair. That was a great report. I would suggest, because it wasn't in the actual agenda, you obviously have it written up, so if you feel comfortable sending it out to members of council and maybe even putting it out there so that people can see what all this stuff that's going on, because it's all good news and it's terrific for people to know all the work that staff are doing for Heritage. So my only recommendation is that we get it out there and that we make everybody aware, because not everybody watches these humble Heritage meetings, but if we can get that information out there so that people can see, you know, the literal checklist of all the things that you've done over the last couple of years, I think it's pretty impressive. So.
Thank you for that feedback, Councilor Flavio. I think that'd be a really great idea as well, just to get those tangible items out there for them to read. Wonderful.
Yeah, I could do that.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? We'll move on to our resolution then. Resolved that the Part 4 designation verbal update be received. A mover, DeFlavio, seconder, Amy, all in favor? Carried. Great. Okay. I don't know where all my sheets are going. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. Okay, we'll move on to verbal updates. All right, I'll give an update on our working group. So you'll recall in December, the committee saw the selected points of interest and major themes that we're hoping to review on the Heritage Grimsby mapping project. Again, we've selected Google Maps as our starting platform. We'll have 5 themes: exploring Loyalist legacies, Grimsby Beach, arts, culture and community, industry and growth, and fruit and farming. So these are points of interest, are properties that have been designated, as well as public art and landmarks. So the committee saw those in December, and now we will be creating the interpretation for these points of interest. So I've been in communication with the working group to set up a couple working meetings for us to do this work together. We plan to launch the map in Heritage Week, which is February 17th. I think it begins. So that's coming up in about a month. Yes, so lots of work to be done, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to have at least the beginnings of a map to share on Heritage Week, and something that we can grow and build out as the year continues. So that's my update for the working group. Any questions regarding that? Yes, Councilor Flavio.
Thank you for that. It's not a question, it's feedback. The map is terrific. Thank you for those who've been involved in it. I'm going to suggest the town is going to be going through a tourism strategy exercise, and from my perspective, the heritage of Grimsby is one of the key features, along with the escarpment in the lake. Those are the 3 things that I think of the most when it, the trails, the lake, the waterfront, and heritage are the three things that come to mind when I think of reasons for people to stop in Grimsby. So making that map live and getting it out there from a tourism perspective, I think is a great way to get people to stop along the way. So thank you for those who are doing it. And I'll bring it up, but I suggest staff also bring it up when it comes to that discussion about tourism, because I think what you're doing is important, and I think it's going to be a really significant part of that tourism strategy.
Fantastic. Thank you for that feedback. It's exciting to know that we're working towards that tourism strategy, and I do think the map has a role in that. So if there's ways that we can work with other staff to make sure that that map can serve other purposes. Yes, Bianca, go ahead.
Through the chair, I have spoken with the economic development team, and I did let them know that the team was working on this map, and they're very interested in it. And so they definitely see our heritage resources as a huge piece of that puzzle. So I've definitely mentioned it to them, but I'll note it and I'll share with them once it goes live. So, yeah.
Thank you for that update, Bianca. And yeah, I think if we can make the map kind of serve multiple purposes, then that would really help its purpose, right? And help how people interact with it and explore the history that we're trying to share. Awesome. That's really great feedback. Thank you. Anything else from the committee regarding the working group? Okay, we do have a little bit of longer resolution for the mapping project, just because of timing and for us to bring the map to a public space by Heritage Week. Given our timeline, we have a resolution here that kind of helps communicate with council the timeline, but then also have staff have a little bit more of a role of getting it live. So I have a resolution to explain how it will go about. I'll read it, and if we feel good with it, then we move on with this process. So resolved that the committee recommends that the interpretive map recommended by the working group for exploring Loyalist legacies, Grimsby Beach, arts, culture and community, industry and growth, and fruit and farming be drafted by the working group using the designated properties, public art, and landmarks presented to the committee during the December 2024 Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee meeting, and that the map be drafted using the Google Maps platform to enable easy accessibility for the general public, and that the approval of the drafted map be prepared by the working group, be delegated to heritage staff due to the timing of the meeting schedules, and to ensure that the map can be prepared in time for Heritage Week 2025, and that the staff approved map be published for Heritage Week 2025, February 17th to the 23rd. Sound good?
Staff's okay with that timeline? Because that's pretty tight. Okay. I don't want to do something that forces you to, as long as you're okay with it.
So the concerns is timeline, but with, I think, the working group and staff working alongside, we should be good. We know the timeline's tight, but we think it's worth it to launch it during Heritage Week. So if we're good with this resolution, I'll just need a mover. I think we're up for Amy. Perfect.
I lost count.
And a seconder, DeFabio. All in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, awesome, thank you. Okay, moving on to reports. We have 2 reports tonight. The first being 262 Main Street West, the amending designation bylaw. This report will be presented by Bianca and Garrett, but we'll start with Bianca. Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. In accordance with the approved heritage permit, the subdivision agreement for the council-approved subdivision located behind Nixon Hall has now been registered. Following the registration of the agreement, the internal process to amend designation bylaw 2004 70 has commenced. As a part of this amending process, staff completed a designation research report so that all the history can now be consolidated in one place. And as a part of that process, we also did the full evaluation again against the Ontario Regulation 906. And we came up with a new statement of significance for the property. We also have within that report the complete list of character defining elements. And so those two pieces will help to make up the new bylaw. And then now that the subdivision agreement has been registered, the parcels have now divided. So we have the new legal description for the remnant parcel that holds the heritage resource. And so the bylaw needs to be updated to reflect where the heritage house will be. As a part of this process, we also look at the Ontario Heritage Act legislative process for amending a bylaw. So that's kind of a new process to this committee. So I provided an overview. So first steps is we consult with the committee. That's happening here tonight. We make the recommendation to council. Council approves the process, and then we will provide notice to the property owners stating the intent and the reason for the amendment. There is then an appeal period of 30 days. Once the 30-day appeal period is up, we will bring the drafted bylaw to council for their consideration. At that meeting, council can also consider any appeals that were received, and then they can pass the bylaw. Bringing that bylaw to council must be done within 90 days of issuing the original notice. So if council does pass the bylaw that evening, then there'll be an appeal period of 30 days. If there's any appeals, they'll go to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or the designation bylaw will come into effect after the appeal period. And then the bylaw will be amended to the date that council passed the bylaw. And then I also wanted to note that the property owner at 262 Main Street West has entered into an agreement, which is a subdivision agreement, and they have agreed to not appeal the designation bylaw. So we're not expecting any appeals, but we still have to follow the legislative process. So that's my update on the process and kind of how we got here today and how we're at this step. And then Garrett's going to provide an overview of the evaluation we have completed for Nixon Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Staff would like to note that all property owners have been informed of the proposed designation and redesignation of their properties. Staff would also like to thank the Grimsby Historical Society for all of their contributions towards the preservation of the town's cultural heritage value, as well as Wayne Mullins from Legacy Research. Based on the assessment of cultural heritage value or interest, staff recommend that the property at 262 Main Street West have the designation be updated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Staff have concluded that the property has met 7 out of 9 prescribed criteria of the Ontario Regulation 906. The property meets the criteria for design and physical value because Nixon Hall is a unique example of the Gothic Revival architectural style and is one of the largest and most decorated examples of this style within Grimsby. Nixon Hall and its opulent architectural elements display the wealth of Dennis Nixon, who constructed the building in 1854. The property meets the criteria for historical and associative value because the property has direct associations with themes and notable figures in Grimsby's history. The Gothic Revival structure was home to Dennis Nixon, a United Empire Loyalist descendant. Dennis was the son of William Nixon and grandson of Alan and Mary Nixon. The Nixons were one of the earliest families to arrive at the 40 in 1787 and made many significant contributions towards Grimsby's agricultural successes. The property meets the criteria for contextual value because the house and property are visually and historically linked to their surroundings and contribute to the historical character and former agricultural use along this section of Main Street West. Based on the assessment of cultural heritage value or interest and significant findings, staff recommend that the designation bylaw for 262 Main Street West be updated. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that report. It's exciting to see this update for 262 Main Street West. I really liked the sources that were used in the research report. Having the diary explain the building process is amazing. So I loved seeing that, and it's like, what a dream source, right? Any comments or questions from the committee? No? Okay. I did want to note, first of all, it was interesting to have the Black history element be included in the report. I think that's something that you don't often see in Grimsby's history, how we're writing it now. So I think that was important to a source that found that information, but then to also report on it. And I really like the way that you framed freedom seekers and kind of that story about how there was slavery in Canada up until 1834, and I like that was noted in the report still. So I just wanted to kind of give a kudos to that as we explore more of these stories that aren't often told. I did want to ask though, if it's worth considering the evolution of the site, if it's worth considering that it has been subdivided and that there is no development going on behind it. I wonder if that's worth noting because it's part of the property story, right? That's part of the reason why we're amending the bylaw. But it also shows how land use on Main Street West has evolved to meet the needs of the community. I mean, I'd wish that we had all of the old orchards still there, but we don't. We have a need for community housing and housing for the community. So I do wonder if it's worth adding a little section in our evolution of the property, something about how that subdivision happened and that there is development that's going on behind it. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Through you, Chair. Yes, I agree. I think that's a good idea. We'll include some history about the subdivision of the property in the report. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And then also just to note that I'm really glad to see such an extensive list for the heritage attributes. So that's great to see that being added to the bylaw. And I also just thought of a question right now, though, thinking about the heritage attributes. There was a conversation a while ago about the fence, right? Can you just remind me what happened with that conversation and the long fence along the side? I kind of forget what happened.
Thank you, through you, the chair. So the condition, I believe, about the fence was that, I think it was that we wanted a lower one put in, but we had left it up to the property owner because that would be like a new project. So we had left it up to them and said we would work with them directly when we got to that point. But I think right now they're keeping the fence where it is. So yeah, that's kind of where we left it. We'd work with the property owner.
Okay, thank you. I just was looking for some clarification knowing that it wasn't in the heritage attributes. But okay, thank you. Any other questions about the 262 Main Street West report? No. Okay, we'll move on to the resolution. Resolved that the Heritage Information Report for 262 Main Street West, amending designation bylaw, be received, and that the committee recommends that the designation bylaw be updated to include the amended legal description, the staff recommended statement of significance, and the staff recommended complete list of character defining elements. A mover. DeFlavio. Seconder. Amy. All in favor? Great. Okay, that's carried. All right, our next report is a designation research report for 43 Main Street East, and Garrett will take this on, so go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Based on the assessment of cultural heritage value or interest, staff recommend that the property of 43 Main Street East be designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Staff have concluded that the property has met 7 out of the 9 prescribed criteria of the Ontario Regulation 906. The property meets the criteria for design and physical value because the dwelling at 43 Main Street East is representative of the Italianate architectural style that was prevalent along Grimsby's Main Street corridors in the mid to late 19th century. The historic structure was constructed in 1884. During this time, the Italianate style was a preferred residential building style by many wealthy fruit farmers. The property meets the criteria for historical and associative value because the dwelling at 43 Main Street East has direct associations with the Anderson and Cargill families of Grimsby and the Mohawk leader Joseph Brandt. Hugh Anderson, who built 43 Main Street East in 1884. Hugh Anderson built 43 Main Street East in the Italian architectural style in 1884. The hill where the home stands was known as Anderson's Hill. Hugh's fruit farm was known as Mountain View Orchards, and in 1900, the farm was producing grapes, raspberries, pears, plums, peaches, and apples. During this time, Hugh Anderson began an affordable housing movement in Grimsby. This movement allowed residents to build a home on parcels of the property at 43 Main Street East while paying what they can, because Anderson believed that everyone needed a place to call home. This movement has been documented in Grimsby's historic newspapers as well. The property meets the criteria for contextual value because 43 Main Street East is important in illustrating the development and transition of the Main Street East corridor. The dwelling contributes to the scale, mass, and form of the dwellings that line our historic main streets. Although this block of the downtown has turned into a largely commercial area, the residence in behind at 43 Main Street East is a reminder of the former residential and agricultural use of the area. Based on the assessment of cultural heritage value or interest and significant findings, staff recommend that the property at 43 Main Street East be designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that report, Garrett. I found it so interesting. Hugh Anderson seems like a really good guy, so I think that was a really great story to add. And I like that you referenced the hill, Anderson's Hill. It doesn't really look like a hill until you run up it. It's actually quite steep. It hurts. Yeah, or the brakes don't work. And I think also, I didn't realize that it was kind of to the Schaefer brothers. So it was interesting to kind of trace how their style has evolved over time too. So I thought that was really cool. So thank you. Any comments or questions from the committee?
Thank you, Chair, through you. So the images within the report itself are all historic images. There were no, unless I missed them, there were no current images of the building, so it's hard for me to say, without seeing what the building looks like now, it's hard to determine what's of value on the building. So was there consultation with the property owner? How do they feel about the designation? What does the building actually look like now? Is it in good shape? I like the goal of preservation, but it's kind of invisible where it is. So what can we do to make it more visible because of its historic importance? Like, those are the kinds of questions that I had that came forward when I saw the report.
Through the chair, I just, for this one was a little tricky because we always take our pictures from the public realm. So we have reached out to the property owner and hoping through those consultations, we can actually take some pictures on the property. But it's almost entirely intact. Every original element is still there. It's in fantastic condition. All the original pieces are there. And so I think it's like an important time to protect those attributes while they're there. And like, we do have the plaza in front of the building that occurred over time, and we do expect change to continue to happen. So I think it's important that that building is protected so that if change does occur on that site, that building is taken into consideration. And hopefully whatever that change looks like, there will be opportunities for it to be kind of shown back to the public, because it's really decorative, really impressive. It has a lot of similar like features to the Udell House. A lot of those original elements are all there. Decorative keystones, and also to note that the building in front of it is not attached in any way. So the full front facade of the building is entirely intact. It doesn't actually affix into that plaza piece. So that's also great news that that original part is still there. But we will continue to work with the property owners in hopes that we can put some of those detailed pictures right into the report. We just didn't want to do it prior to meeting with them and making sure they were comfortable with it.
Thank you, Bianca. Councilor Flavio?
Through you, Chair, thank you. So are we being asked to designate without those things and without the consultation with the owner then? Because like this is a designation report, right? So we're being asked to designate, but we don't have any of the information that, like, so we haven't consulted with the owners yet? And the other question I had is it a separate parcel from the plaza or is it all one property?
Through the chair. So it's all one property. And the property owners, we've mailed notice to them we've sent 2 notices. First one saying we were doing the review, and then we also sent the report. So we haven't heard from them yet. So we've reached out to them again in hopes of them getting back to us. So we're waiting to hear that part, but we can confirm that all those original elements are there. We just didn't want to put the pictures on the agenda because that's public facing, but we have confirmed we've seen all of those elements from being within the property, but we haven't been able to put that in the report. We can see them from like the angles we were standing on Main Street. Yeah, I just didn't want to put that in without checking with them.
Through you, Chair. So when we send a letter to a property owner, or 2 letters in this case, I'm assuming it's just through traditional mail. This might be a situation where we might want to consider registered mail because this is an important change to their home. And, you know, people might disregard something that's not a bill, or it could be, I don't know if it's a rental property, but if it's a rental property and it's an owner who, you know, collects the rent but isn't worried about the day-to-day unless there's a significant change to the property. This is one of those cases where I think we need to put it in, make sure that it's in the hands of the homeowner, the property owner. And I'm not 100% sure that I'm comfortable with designation, knowing that we don't have their permission or even a discussion about it. I mean, I'm fine with designation without permission if we feel like it's a really important property, because I want to preserve the property. But I don't think we should be jumping past the consultation part. And so I think I'm going to vote against this tonight, or ask to defer it until we are able to confirm with the property owner and have that conversation, and also get permission to use those images, because I think that that's an important part. If we're talking about parts of the facade that you talk about that are original, I think including those in the report is an important part of the process. So I would recommend, and I'm only one vote, but I would recommend that we defer it to the next meeting and we put that letter in a registered mail and make sure that we know that it's being delivered to the property owner, so that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and I'd feel more comfortable about it that way. If other people feel differently, again, I'm only one vote, but that's my opinion on it.
Through the chair, I just wanted to confirm, no properties designated without registered mail. The first 2 letters, we usually get a response back. If we don't, we usually get a contact from the water department and give them a call. But the actual formal notices that come through the Ontario Heritage Act, actually starting the process to designate, are all registered mail. Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm that no one has been designated that doesn't know. They have to actually sign for those documents and they're notified. So, and we haven't had any returned as a part of the process. And usually we can get a hold of them prior to the first notice, which is obviously preferable, because we don't want to start the clock until we start talking to them. So I like your suggestion, and we can send the letter through registered mail, and then hopefully we've heard back by the next meeting and we can talk about it. So I think your approach, it's not in danger between the 2 meetings. So I think if that's how the committee feels, we can definitely do that.
Thank you. Thank you for that response, Bianca, and thank you for that suggestion, Councilor Flavio, knowing that, we're really trying with the positive relationships with property owners. I feel like it would be fair to ask to defer this designation, knowing that we're really working towards these positive relationships, and that we've made every effort possible to reach out to them to know. Because I also think the history of the house is really interesting, and I think the property owner, might want to know that kind of history. And if the heritage attributes are intact as much as they are, like, I wonder if that was purposeful, right? Like, maybe there was a reason why they decided to build the plaza where they did. I think you said it's like 5 meters in front of the house. That's pretty significant. They didn't need to do that, and they decided to. So yeah, I'm curious to see if we could get some feedback from them. Yeah, that's just kind of my 2 cents. So I think I'm fine. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I wasn't rushing.
Yes. Amy, go ahead. I'll stop blabbing.
No, you weren't at all. Sometimes I feel like I'm lost over here. Thank you, through you, Chair. So I'm in agreement with Councillor DeFlavio, maybe in terms of deferring. One of the questions that I had, not to be repetitive though, was in terms of the land. Was it subdivided or was it one property? And then with your confirmation that it was one property, and then hearing back that we haven't heard, concerns whether they're for or against maybe the designation, because some of the limitations that might put with the development of the plaza. I don't know about that. And then the second thing that I just wanted to comment on was it was exactly that, just more of a comment, is that this such substantial history with this property. It's such a beautiful property with significant attributes. It has a very strong presence, and it's very, to Councillor DeFlavio's point, hidden, right? We don't know the condition of it. Members of our community don't often even know that it's there or have the realization that it's there. So I do think it's important to protect homes like these in the future, and we shouldn't forget about it. We should continue pursuing it, because I feel like this is one of the homes that does need protection, because it can easily get lost, forgotten, and there's a great deal of history and presence to it. So it was a fantastic report and a lot of history learned, so thank you.
Thank you, Amy, for your feedback. Yes, I definitely agree that this it's a really important building to save. So let's make sure that we have everything covered. Yes. Did you have any other feedback? Yes, because I have one question, but it's separate. So yeah.
Through the chair, I just wanted to add to one of Amy's comments about limiting the abilities on the plaza. So 2 things. One, it would be designated in its current condition, so as it is today. 2 is there's kind of a few options we could do. One thing we've talked about with another property owner is doing an R plan where we would actually specify where the designation could apply. So if we wanted it to be the whole parcel except for the plaza, that's something we could look at. I think it helps us to kind of ensure that it maybe isn't further hidden in the future if we leave the plaza in. So those are just some of the options that we can talk about. But these are the kind of conversations we definitely want to have with the property owner. And so we will continue to reach out with them, and we've done that with all of the sites to make sure that we're talking to someone before this very important decision's made. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that we're talking to the property owners before it happens. So
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, we definitely know that you're working to do all your due diligence. So thank you for that. I have a question or a comment in one of the figures. This is separate from whether we designate today or wait. But I just noticed figure 16 of the map. Really cool map, by the way. I've never seen that map before, but I don't think it's 1920s. I think it's a little bit later. I think it's 1950s. I just wanted to make that note going forward, when you're looking at other map or looking to use it for other properties. I think that because there's a Robertson Street apartment, Roxy Theater's there, and the cars look more closer to 1950s, maybe 1960s. So I just wanted to note that in case we're using that map for other properties as well. But I think the map is still really helpful, and even in this context too, to help us understand how the land is being used a little bit better. And when the property in front, was becoming a strip mall or a plaza. So I do think that the map is useful. So I just wanted us to double check the date on that. That's all. Okay, so it looks like the committee is in agreement to defer this report. So that means that the resolution will need to be changed a little bit. So I'll just give one moment to review it, to defer to the next meeting. Are we good for the next meeting? Okay. Okay, just to give us more time to communicate with the property owners. And then, yeah, if we have a conversation with how that designation could look like, and whether it's the whole property or not, maybe that could be included in the report also. So, okay, give me 1 sec to look at the resolution and see how we can change it. All right, everyone, we are back with a updated resolution. I'll read it out, and if we're good, then we can, then we'll all call for support. So, resolved that the 43 Main Street East designation report be received, and that the committee defer the staff recommendations until the February 2025 meeting to enable further conversation with the heritage property owners. Sound okay for the committee? I see some nods. Okay. I'll need a mover. All right, well, we have DeFlavio. I lost track of who's next, so we'll have DeFlavio move, and Amy will second. All right, all in favor? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that really great conversation. And last up, then, we have some new business that Bianca will present to us.
Thank you, through the chair. So Councillor Korstanji couldn't be here tonight, and she asked me to deliver this message to you. So unfortunately, she has a schedule conflict with the Heritage Committee this term of her schooling, which she is not able to accommodate. If the committee agrees, I would like to request a leave of absence from January to April and to be temporarily replaced with another counselor. I will not be able to make the meeting tonight, but I want to reassure you that I am okay with whatever the committee decides is the best path forward. The important thing to me is that the committee is able to continue to function in the most productive way possible. Thank you, Jennifer Kristanji.
Thank you for reading Councillor Kristanji's message to us. Any comments or questions from the committee? Yes, Councillor DeFlavio?
Yeah, that's going to be like 3 or 4 meetings. I don't even know if a leave of absence is really necessary. I think if we don't have quorum for one of the for a meeting, then we can reschedule. But if we don't need to replace Councillor Kristanji, then I don't think we need to replace her, but I'm fine with either way. Like, I think that even if she misses 3 or 4 meetings, it's not a huge deal. A leave of absence is fine if we want to give a leave of absence, but obviously, but I don't think a replacement is necessary unless staff think that we absolutely need it, because we generally have the other four of us here anyway, and as long as we have quorum, we can continue with the business of Heritage. So I'm fine either way.
Through the chair, I just wanted to add, I did check with clerks and they said you can't miss 3 consecutive meetings. So that's the only reason we're doing the resolution. But as for not wanting to replace, that's totally up to the committee. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't have experience with these leaves of absences. I do agree. We usually are. We do usually have quorum. I think we're already moving around a meeting in May or March, if I'm correct, right? I think I'd have to leave it up to staff to see if you feel like it's best to have another counselor come in. I'm fine either way.
Through the chair, maybe just as a committee, we could just be like proactive. If we can't make a meeting, a heads up, and then we can make adjustments as needed. I think that would be totally possible, and we can accommodate the leave of absence for sure.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, I'm in agreement, but even, Zoom is still an option. So if for some reason, if we're feeling unwell and we can't make quorum or whatnot, there's always that option for us to join too. So I think for the most part, attendance is strong across the board and shouldn't be an issue. That's my opinion, if anyone disagrees.
I'm in agreement with that. Yeah, I'm fine if we grant Christianji her leave of absence. Honestly, with her being in school, I'm surprised she was able to do fall. So I appreciate her giving us this option, and we can continue on business as usual. If there's any attendance issues, then we can notify you as soon as possible. So if we need to change it, but yeah, we can go through that way. So we have a resolution. So right now it says that we'll appoint a council member, but now we can change that to we will recommend not appointing a council member.
Take it out.
Just take it out completely. All right. All right, my resolution here. Resolved that the Heritage Committee recommends Council approve a leave of absence for Councillor Costangi for a period of 4 months from January to April 2025. That is my resolution. A mover, I'm moving over to Amy. And a seconder to Flavio. All right, that's great. And we wish Councillor Costangi the best of luck this semester. And with that, I think we're all finished with our business here for the January meeting. Thank you everyone for attending, for joining, and we'll see you in February.